Hello, everyone. My name is Dame D.C. Cordova, and I'd like to welcome you again to one of our conversations with masters. And today, I am so excited. We're going to have George Antone, who is actually the Chief Wealth Strategist for Achivest, and also the creator of the Family Bank. And we also have the CEO of Achivest, and that's Haider Nazar. And one of the things that we're going to be doing today is we're going to be talking about financial literacy, about financial security. And I just want to give you a very short background. You know, I know that some of you know that I was business partners with Robert Kiyosaki for 9 years, and we hung out together for 17 years. And the first book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, is based on our work. And then there was a game that came out called the Cash Flow Game that I had the opportunity to be there while it was being created. And I was so excited because this game was so experiential in nature, and it really allowed for people to get financially literate. But through the years, it kind of has moved on. It has moved on to other places. And I was a little bit sad because we didn't have access to a great game, to a great exercise that was in alignment with our work. The years have gone by, many years have gone by. And then I was introduced first to George through someone that he sent to see Money and You. And then I had the opportunity to meet him, and our alignment of spirit was so amazing. And then I found out they had created this thing called the Family Bank. And I didn't realize it until recently, until after I attended it, how excited I was that I actually now something new, much more further down the line, that had a bunch of other distinctions and can really create legacy for families and create communities, but also support me on my mission, which many of you know is to really transform educational systems around the world and eradicate poverty and hunger. And so here was this amazing game and this particular organization. Then, of course, George couldn't go to the Money and You in Malaysia, and he sent his business partner, Haider, to go to Money and You there. And, you know, then, of course, I couldn't believe how beautiful his partner was. These two guys are what I call my knights now, because they have such amazing experience, knowledge, information that I truly believe that can make a difference not only to people who are wealthy or people who are middle class, but also for people that may not have a lot of money that need to get some distinctions on financial wealth, on financial literacy, on financial independence, on financial security. So today they're going to be doing most of the talking. I'm just going to be asking a few questions. But I wanted to really thank you, George and Haider, for coming on and giving us some tips, giving us distinctions, and sharing with us what was it about the, you know, the family game that you chose to create it that way. But I'm going to turn it over to you. Let's start with you, George, first. How are you? And tell us a little bit about yourself that I may have missed.
So thanks for having us, DC. We're really honored for being here. My background, I used to be in high tech. I worked for a number of software companies, including Intuit, makers of Quicken. I worked on Quicken, Microsoft, a number of other software companies. And that was up to 2001, and then later got into software. I got into investing. I got into real estate investing, private lending, and we ended up building the largest network of private lenders in the world. So I've been doing investing since 2001, and it's been phenomenal. But that's my background.
Thank you so much. And you, Haider, what about you?
Well, first, thank you so much, DC. We're humbled to be here on your Hangout, and really excited to be participating with you. Like George, I am also a veteran of the Silicon Valley. Various venture-backed startups is where I started my career. And then after that, became an investor myself and really got involved in different alternative asset investing, defined as things other than stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. And then with George, built the largest network of private lenders in the country, which really was a community that we were very proud of. And now with that momentum, we decided that now was the time to launch the game and take our community building to a much broader context and make it accessible to the world, and that brings us to the family banking.
Thank you so much. So George, coming back to you, I wanted to ask you, can you, for someone around the world, this is going to be seen through the years. It's going to be seen by people not only in America, South America, but most of the people in our network are in the Asia Pacific region. But my hangouts are seen all around the world, in Europe, in South Africa, all over Africa, Middle East. Okay? As a matter of fact, we have somebody coming all the way from Arabia to our upcoming Money and You that you're going to be attending. I'm so excited. Coming all the way from Arabia to be with us.
Excellent.
So people always want to know, how do I create my wealth? How do I build my wealth? And if you can also speak to people that may not have a lot of money, that may be surviving and have very little money, can you just give us some lessons on financial literacy?
It's funny, that's a great question, and it's just a big question, to be honest with you. So one of the things when we first came out to decide to really impact people's lives, we started by working with investors and helping investors reach new heights. And one of the things we realized is that we're helping so many investors change their lives, but we weren't helping the average person. And the average person really is the one that we need to be helping the most. So that's why we created the Family Bank. And so what I'm going to talk about first is what we call hacking the game of finance. And what I mean by that is, what is the smallest thing you can do that has the biggest impact on your finances, on your wealth? And we found out this whole idea of the Family Bank has such a huge impact to the average person with little to no downside, meaning no risk. It's just a cash management, very powerful strategy that the very, very wealthy have been using for a very long time. And so what I'd like to do is address what is it first, and then talk about how you can use it, how the average person can use it, because I don't want to just give basic financial principles and just I want to make sure people take this and actually implement it. So let me start by saying this. This is something that the richest people in the world have been using for hundreds and hundreds of years. So what it is using the principles of just a regular bank to be able to build wealth. And so the way it works is, I want you to think of a piggy bank. And with a piggy bank, there are typically what people think are two ways of using a piggy bank. Some people never use it. That's one option. And the second option is some people put money in the piggy bank, and after some time, they take the money out and go spend it on buying something, like a fun thing, a TV or whatever. So the Family Bank analogy, or the best way to explain it is, you take this piggy bank, and here's how I explain it to my daughter. You put money in it, but you never, ever, ever take it out. You always borrow it, and you have to pay it back with interest. And so if you just follow that simple idea that any money that goes into the piggy bank, and remember, the piggy bank represents, it could be a checking account, it could be whatever, you never ever take it out, you only borrow it out, and you put it back in with interest. And so over time, it keeps growing. And the first thing my daughter said is, who's 10 years old, says, "But Dad, doesn't mean that you need a lot of piggy banks?" And I said, "Honey, that's precisely what I'm talking about. That's how you build wealth." So that's a basic, simple concept just to start people with. So use the piggy bank, never take the money out, and always borrow it out. And pay back.
Thank you so much. Now, let me just go to Haydar for a minute. Haydar, since you have attended Money and You, there's quite a few Money and You graduates that are going to be watching this. Can you tell us a little bit, even though we've already done a Google Hangout where you were sharing about Money and You, but just in case they didn't see that one, what is the affinity, what is the alignment that you saw between our work and your work?
Well, I think that, Money and You is your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your business self, your personal self, your financial self. So George talks about the piggy bank concept, but to take that piggy bank to the next level, really being able to share that piggy bank with those close to you in your life, and use that as a way to create leverage. Use that as a way to help everyone in the family. That is where I see a lot of synergy, because in the work of Money and You, so much of it is about building systems and about leverage, but it's also about fundamentally building a deeper relationship with those closest to you. And part of the family bank, sure, it's about financial security, but it's also about building your family, your community. So I think there's a lot of overlap between the work of Money and You and the family bank. The family bank, I think, is sort of an extension of the Money and You work, because it's very actionable and it's very specific. It's to specifically and exactly, if you want to learn how to achieve financial security and build your community and build strength within your family, here's an experiential way to learn specifically and exactly how to do it.
Thank you. I definitely agree with that. So, George, what I wanted to do also, I'm trying to get your beautiful face. There you are. I wanted to just check in with you. So, when you created the family bank, and I attended when you were launching it. You had tested it and you were launching it, and you were working with the different people, your different trainers and people who are very successful that are now leading it. It's experiential, and now we're going to have music in it, and it has flip charts, and there is actually a board that you play with a group, and then you go and you take actions. You have people that are like bankers, so to speak, and then you have to have transactions that occur, and that's the part that I really like, because I started getting used to, okay, how do I present this particular piece, and you're giving us all these different scenarios. So I had a breakthrough that I loved, which had to do with my family. It had to do with my own sister, who, should anything happen to me, my sister actually would be the heiress to the little empire that I have created, which is going to keep growing no matter whether I'm here or not, because the systems are in place. And so there was a breakdown that had occurred, because sometimes we can't talk about it because it's such an emotional piece for her and her husband, that why are we talking about this? So I had a breakthrough, because I realized that I had a game that we could participate as a family, and they would get all these distinctions that I had been learning. They will learn it. They will also be able to build their own family bank. We'll have a family bank. And so can you give us a little bit more on what was your idea? What is it that you have seen with families and money and creating generational wealth? Can you tell us a little bit more about that, because that is your world?
Yes, by the way, Lisa, I'm hearing every other word you're saying, so it's really, that's why I keep trying to, so what I've found is that, number one, a lot of families are so uncomfortable talking about money.
Okay.
That's number one. Number two, what I found is that a lot of parents, specifically, are so uncomfortable passing on specific lessons to their kids because they don't know what to pass along. And so there's a term you just said, generational wealth. So there's a lot of benefits on having families work together. And the reason we created it as a game, and once again, this game is not necessarily a board game, it's a game played in a room, and people running around, 100 people running around, adults with their kids if need be. And what we found is that it opens up a lot of discussions and also passes on a lot of lessons. So the powerful word you said there is generational wealth. What we have found is that a lot of people keep passing on the same lessons to the next generation. And you see these same lessons, so poor remain poor and the middle class remain middle class because they're passing on the same exact lessons every generation. And that's called generational poverty, because they're passing on specific lessons. And so the wealthy, though, are passing on very different lessons. And by having this game, you are now passing on the right lessons to your lineage, to your kids, and the next to your loved ones. And so that's what we call generational wealth. It's not necessarily just financial, but it's also intellectual and relationships. So here's what I tell people is if you could pass all your intellect to your kids, or money you've created, or relationships, if you had to give up one of them, okay, most people say, I'll give up financial in a heartbeat because I want to pass on the intellect and the relationships I built. And so the family bank actually allows you to pass all three of them. But you realize that we spend all our lives building this money, financial, yet it's the first thing we're willing to give up. And so what this game does is it allows you, because it allows you to learn how to run a family bank for real, in real life, but also how to pass on the intellect and how to pass on the relationships in addition to the financial. So the big question I ask people is, let's just say you were able to build this small fortune, and now your kids take it over, and something happens to you, right? You're in a hospital for a week or 2 weeks or 5 weeks, or something happens that's not good. What would happen? Would your kids or your loved ones know what to do? And the answer is consistently no. So why is it that we're spending all our time on the financial when intellect and relationships are more important? And so what we have found with the family bank is allowing families to have that conversation, pass on the right information, create generational wealth, like you said, and not generational poverty. So there's a lot of benefits, but it's creating very different conversations with families. It's very, very powerful.
Hey George, I would add to that, George, by saying that with intellect and with relationship building, that also builds more cooperation. A lot of times when people look to build financial security, they look just within themselves, and they look to see how they were able to build that success and that financial security by themselves, which can be lonely and can be unfulfilling. But to be able to do it in a cooperative fashion that's non-competitive potentially, or creates more leverage because there's more money to go around to help everyone within the family, it creates more cooperation. And by creating more cooperation, ultimately, in a lot of families, that's what's needed to actually create the financial security. So I don't think you can actually have, for a lot of families, financial security without the relationship building and without the intellectual opportunities that the game presents to the participants.
Thank you. So George, you and your organization, of course you and Hadar and your team, have created a vision of impacting 1 million families. Tell us a little bit about that and why you're doing that.
You know, that's a great question. I want to go back to when we first started. When we first started, we wanted to impact a certain number of lives that were specifically investors. And we realized that we've done such a great job and we've helped so many people as investors become extremely successful. But we realized, really, we wanted something much bigger than that. We want to know that when we leave this earth, that we've impacted 1 million people, because from those people will impact their families and their loved ones, and so it has a cascading effect. So we're like, what can we do to impact the average person out there? And let's just reach out to the stars. Just aim for 1 million people, and that's within 60 months, 5 years. And so that is what really drives us, because at the end of the day, you can't take money with you to when you move on to a different world. So the question is, what can you do right now to impact all these people? And that's what we really focus on, the smallest thing we can do that has the biggest impact on families, but not just the family itself, but generational wealth, like you talked about. And so we're so driven to hit that 1 million mark, because we know what that could mean for the world. It could mean so many more millions of people beyond the 5 years that would just have building. In fact, what's interesting, this past weekend, we had an event, and we had parents with their son, who's 19 years old, Matthew, sitting there, and they're talking about how this has already impacted their son's life. And Matthew, the son, was saying now all his friends are playing Xbox, and here he is talking to his parents about financial security and having a whole different conversation. And that's all within 6 months. And to me, that represents what's possible with the 1 million. So passing it along and along, and so this makes it real. And you should have seen the parents. In fact, the dad stepped back and looked at his son and said, "I'm so proud of you." And all that's within 6 months. And so just imagine what's possible with 1 million people. So that's why we do what we do, because we want to be able to look back and say, you know what? Because we were on this planet, we made a small difference.
Well, when you do Money and You in just a couple of weeks, a few weeks, you're going to see that that's what we call precession. It's the mathematical explanation for ripple effects. So the precession that you're going to create is going to be magnificent, and this goes along with the teachings of the Money and You program, which of course we've been doing for over 36 years. The Business School for Entrepreneurs. I just came back from China last night from doing our 76th Chinese Business School for Entrepreneurs. And one of the things that we teach in Money and You is that we teach that you really need to have a purpose. Our purpose is to uplift humanity's consciousness through business, and we like to say socially responsible business. By the way, that word socially responsible is a little different in India. So for those of you listening in India to this conversation, I want you to know what we mean in America and in other countries. Socially responsible means doing good but still having profitable businesses, not just working through government agencies. So I want to clarify that. So one of the things that we teach is when you're clear on your purpose, and we have a mission. One of our missions, now is the greening of the whole planet, which, as some of you know, I'm very involved with the world's leading renewable energy green entrepreneur. But of course, I already said my mission a little bit earlier about transforming educational systems. So what happens when you have a really clear purpose and a clear mission, that's when it becomes so obvious when you find your teammates, when you, like, we are a network of networks. We're having this conversation with some very successful people. Probably in the last 6 months, 7 months, we started this conversation with some of our friends in Australia, Julio de la Fite, that created this organization called Unstoppables.com.au, and we all went to Antarctica together, and just about everyone in that ship was very, very successful. And one of the things that we were just talking about is how do we uplift other people, and so I found them. I was so excited. Then, of course, we found our partners that are taking us to Australia and New Zealand to do the Money and You program, and then later to other countries. Then, of course, we have our current partners, in Singapore and Malaysia, and all around China, all around the Asia-Pacific region, and then, of course, in India, and then we have other partners that are in Europe. So here we come along, we have this worldwide network, and we run into you. We got a network of networks, and you have this million, families goal, and it's completely congruent. So it's congruent and in alignment with what we want to do. So then, of course, we get to know each other. We're dancing, and seeing each other's work and all this and that. And there seems to be such alignment and synergy. So we're taking you already have a pretty global mindset, but now we're actually introducing you to others. So tell me about your vision, your thoughts about globally. Tell us a little bit from your master mind. You really have a master's mind. Tell us about the world. Tell us about global. Why is it that just making families in America wealthy is not enough? Tell us a little bit about your vision and your philosophy. And I will start with you first, George.
You know what? I'm hearing every other word you're saying.
Okay, we'll go to Haydar. We'll go to Haydar, because Haydar, you heard every word, and we'll have him catch up.
I did. Well, you know, I go back to when George and I were doing our planning on impacting 1 million lives in 60 months. The 1 million lives wasn't actually chosen by accident. We actually looked at that number and said, how can we achieve that? And what is a realistic number that we can reach for, and at the same time, it's a big enough vision that gets a lot of other talented partners and community members involved in the work. And so we knew that to get to 1 million lives, it's bigger than George, it's bigger than me, it's bigger than any one person. So for us, what we want to do is tap into a network of community all over the world that can help us and join hands with us in making that mission a reality. So certain folks will be interested in playing the game, others will be interested in hosting the game, and others might be interested in being a trainer for the game. But there are a variety of different ways to get involved, and DC, I know that Money and You has, with a very similar model, has gotten over 100,000 people through the Money and You training in a very short period of time. So that's an inspiration for us. But again, the whole idea here is to go global and to create multiple entry points so that we can make this a very partner-friendly and very community-friendly platform. Yes. For the world to participate with us and play with us and dance with us within this game.
So I'm going to move my phone a little closer. Can you hear me better, George? Maybe that will help. A little bit better. Okay, yes. Good. Okay, so
I think. Yeah, go ahead,
George. Go ahead.
Just based on what Haydar said, I think I understand the question about. It sounds like global and what So let me answer what I think you asked. So. One of the things we have built into the Family Bank is the idea of family banks or families helping each other. So one of the things we have found is that, so we have this thing where families once a year help other families. And there's this idea of adopting, and I don't mean financially here, but just simply adopting, meaning one family helping one family build their family banks. Because the family banks can be extremely, extremely, extremely powerful. You really start simple, and then you build up. And what we were thinking about is what would it look like if we had a family from some country and a family from some other country helping each other, maybe even over Google Hangout or Skype or different things. And to me, it's such a powerful concept because what it does is it brings families, neighborhoods together, and keep in mind a neighborhood could be these days across the oceans, right? Yeah. And so it makes families closer, but also people from around the country, from around the world, closer by helping each other. It's a fascinating thought, and that was built into the Family Bank concept specifically to bring people together.
Thank you, thank you. Now, just so that everyone knows, there is not going to be an end here where people are going to ask you to invest in something. We want to make this very clear because unfortunately in some of the industry that I actually was one of the generators, one of the co-creators of a new paradigm back in the 70s of having experiential transformational programs that could actually train people into having businesses that could add value to others. And we have never been a company that has raised funds or taken people to all these different investment things. As a matter of fact, we were very clear about that. And so I know that there are some people, and then our industry, about 12 or 13 years ago, our industry was hijacked, and I really mean that word, hijacked, by people that decided to use a lot of our language and are taking people into investments and things like that. And that is not what this is about. And I want to make that very clear, because that is part of the alignment that we have with each other. And this is about education. These are two masters that have built and know how to work with investors, and they do that business of investment education. But I just want to make it very clear, because I know right now in the minds and the thoughts of some people is like that have never met us, that they don't know our history, or they don't know me, they don't know you. They might be thinking, okay, so what are they going to sell me at the end? What we're really selling you is you. We're selling you into creating a whole new paradigm of moving from scarcity thinking to sufficiency thinking to actually to abundance. And this is because our world is in deep trouble. It really, really is. I mean, and please forgive me for saying this, but one of the vacations that I had while I was working around the clock in China was not having American news available to me. I had a channel called CCTV America. You can go to youtube.com/CCTV America 1, and you can see news by the Chinese government that comes out of Washington, D.C. And so I was watching all kinds of different educational shows. I also got to really see very neutral news about what was happening in Greece, what was happening in China. I got there 2 days after they had a 30% drop in their stocks. And then, of course, they recuperated very, very quickly. They recuperated, I believe, in 4 days' time. And then, of course, then there was other news that I was listening. And so I took a vacation from sometimes the silliness of American news. And, of course, I land back, and the first thing that I watch is our wonderful, very entertaining Mr. Donald Trump, you know, that has stirred something up, and then of course the news is all about that, and it was like such a shock. It was like, okay, where is all the news about how we can make this world work? How can we help the little families? How can we help people that are making $12, $15 an hour that are living below the poverty line? And so then you start having this politics come into place of some people that might be very interesting to the whole world, but what we need to do, excuse me, not to the whole world, to America. By the way, I heard nothing about Mr. Trump while I was in China, because it's not entertaining, nor is in any way, shape, or form interesting to the world. They don't watch things like that. They're not interested in it. And so one of the things that I want to ask, you know, both of you right now is like, give us a little bit more, besides the piggy bank. What is it that families that right now can barely make their ends meet? 40 hours a week they work really, really hard, and they're below the poverty line. Besides the piggy bank, what can we help them with right now? George.
I think the most important thing I can tell people is financial literacy. Start educating yourself. I can't stress that enough. Take the time to focus on you and educate yourself. And by having something like a family bank, you really educate, the whole family is getting educated. So the problem I find with a lot of things out there is a lot of people are trying to teach people do this or do this or do this, but without having the foundation, which is financial literacy, which is just educate yourself. Take the time in the evening, read a book on financial literacy, do something. You can't, that's one of the best investments you can do is just educate yourself. And you know what, it might take you a year, 2 years, 4 years to just, you know, educate yourself, but that's fine. Just keep reading, and it's gonna, you can start implementing small steps. My recommendation is don't just jump in and start investing. Like, you know, something you said, DC, that's really important. A lot of people think about investing is the only way to make money, and that is really not true. You the best investment is up here. Okay, so take the time, learn. That has the best return on your investment. I can't stress that enough. So my recommendation: read a book, 2 books, 3 books. If you're barely making it, with that, and then start surrounding yourself with people that you want to be like. And one of the things I did early on was surround myself with some very affluent people, and they had such a huge effect on me. And just being around them allows you to learn their habits, their conversations, their everything about them, their being, and that affects you positively. So these are 2 best steps I would say for most people to start with.
Thank you. And nowadays, in regards to financial education, nowadays in the United States, for instance, we still have a lot of libraries that have great books, and they have fantastic, fantastic libraries that have computers. And you can actually, I did a show once in Mexico. I did a radio show for 2 hours, and they had never had so many people call in. And I did it for 3 types of people: the wealthy, the middle class, and people that had nothing. I knew that there would be people listening to the radio that were working. Like, I remember when my mom had a bakery in East Los Angeles in my 20s, the bakers, that most of them were people that had come across the border, and my mother actually paid them quite well. They would listen to the radio all day long. So one of the things that I share with people that had very little money was that find someone that will help you. There are many people that are very generous, and the first thing that people need to do is need to learn how to read and write. I know that sounds really crazy for you listening right now that probably have everything in life and we're so wealthy, but for people that may be watching this that don't have much, reading and writing is key. The other thing, of course, is to find someone like a mentor or a benefactor, not a benefactor financially, but you can literally ask them to help you to get educated in exactly what George was talking about. And that's financial literacy. And you can actually ask them questions. How do you make your money? How do you build your wealth? What is it that you did? What is it that you see for someone like me? And it sounds very simple, but that can also be done by a middle class family that right now feels like they're slipping into poverty. And you have to step away from listening to things that are, excuse my language, so stupid. You need to get into some intelligence. Intelligence means knowing the facts, knowing how does this really work, and the part that I really love about the family bank is the whole conversation about stop paying all that interest to regular banks, that you pay interest to your family bank, but not to regular banks. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Haydar for a few minutes for you to talk a little bit more about this. And maybe you can talk about some distinctions about the family bank that teaches certain key things, not that you're going to give it away because it's almost impossible, because we do have to spend the day learning, but just some key things that families can learn from you right now.
Sure. Yeah, it's interesting. It's very similar to Money and You, where I'm sure, DC, you're asked all the time. So give me the sort of the highlights of Money and You. It's almost impossible. And for me, also, it's very difficult to say over, 3.5 days of Money and You, to be able to say, here's exactly what you'll get, because it's so different for so many people. So similarly for the family bank, which has already been done in the United States, the takeaways are different for different people. But what we've learned, DC, in building our network and building our community is that, first of all, the technical aspects of the game aren't necessarily the innovative part of the family bank, because the family bank has been around, as George said, for hundreds of years. Some of the wealthiest families have actually used the family bank. So what we do, which I think is different, is we make that very accessible to a lot more people. So we're not creating some new concept of the family bank. This has existed for centuries. All we've done is taken that and put that into an experiential game that your whole family can play together. And so I think that that's really important. So the success framework, which we call it, which is sort of really the implementation side of it, is to teach through the experiential learning. Okay, how do we set up the game? How do we make the money available, the piggy bank available to everyone in the family? How do we pay interest to ourselves versus pay it to a bank? But more importantly, how do we create also the community? And how do we create an abundant mentality? How do we shift our thinking around our relationships around our family? And we can work with our family to create that abundance versus work on that independently. So I know you're looking for some meat, DC, but as I talk to everyone who's gone through the game, it's so varied what the takeaway is. Your takeaway with your sister is a very unique experience. Yes. I didn't hear that about legacy around your business and transferring it to your sister. That's a different takeaway. We didn't design the game with that in mind. But I think in the end, the biggest takeaway that I've heard from participants is that I can create more financial security for myself, and I can do that in collaboration with my family. And that is a big 95% of people, at least in the United States, and I would suspect close to that on a global level, are trying to create financial security by themselves. And that's a very difficult road for the middle class to achieve. So hopefully that's helpful.
Yes, no, that is helpful. And George, you want to say something? Can you hear us, George?
Yeah, I'm hearing every other word you're saying again. I'm sorry, but I want to say something about the family bank, because there is a lot of let me share the story with you. So there's a story that goes something like that. I'm not sure exactly how it goes, but something like there are 6 blind men that were asked to describe what an elephant was. Okay, and so they had them feeling different parts of the elephant. And so one blind man felt the leg and said, an elephant is like a pillar. Another one felt the tail and said, an elephant is like a rope. Another one felt the belly and said, the elephant is like a wall, on and on and on. So it depends who you talk to about the family bank, but all of them are right and all of them are wrong. So, for example, if you talk to a wealth manager who works with very, very affluent families, he'll tell you that the family bank is a financial planning technique for wealth accumulation, all within a trust. Okay, really hard, difficult language. Another person, if you talk to an estate attorney, they'll tell you, oh, the family bank is a method to minimize generational taxes. If you talk to an insurance agent will tell you, oh, this is a way to grow money in a tax advantage environment. If you read about it on Forbes magazine or Wall Street Journal, because they've written about family banks and how powerful that is, they'll tell you, oh, you have to have $1 million to start this thing. Well, they're all wrong and they're all right. And so the reason I'm bringing that up is because a lot of people, first thing they do is Google the term family bank. And really, the family bank is such a powerful, powerful, powerful concept that anyone can do, even with $100. And if you're poor, if you're rich, if you're middle class, it doesn't matter. Anyone can do this. And guess what? It has such a powerful effect on the whole family. So a lot of people think you have to have money to do this. So the other part that always comes up during the game is, how does this compare to real estate? And or how does it compare to stock market, or how does it compare to whatever investment they're thinking? And so what we tell them is this, is it actually doesn't compare to any of this stuff. And here's why. If you buy a, let's say, if you buy coffee and you use cash, you can use a credit card, you can use, borrow money from someone. All of these are financing systems to buy a product or service. And so that's called a financing system. A family bank is a financing system. So if you're going to buy real estate, or if you're going to buy coffee, or if you're going to buy a car, you still need a financing system.
Got it.
Whatever, but they're really comparing. It's almost like they're asking which one is better, the coffee or the credit card that bought the coffee. Well, you need one to buy the other. Or which one is better, real estate or the loan that you buy real estate? Well, you need both. So the family bank is actually a financing system that can be used for anything. So if you're using it for investing, it enhances the investments, your returns, because now you own the mortgage company and the real estate. If you're buying a coffee with it, or you're paying for education, instead of getting a loan, you can borrow it from the family bank. So it's just a financing system where you own the credit card company now and the product that you buy with it. So it's a lot more, you know, when we talk technically financial here, it's a lot more than just comparing it to real estate. It's really enhances all of these things.
Fantastic. So one of the things is that I would say, if I were describing the elephant, I would say it goes beyond the cash flow game. You know, everybody has, I know, a different description, but I'm so excited to be able to be in alignment with the two of you and bringing this work to our network, but also for people that are interested in our program. I think that they, you know, we have a whole group coming from your Platinum program, and we're so excited. It will be that next Money and You is going to be amazing with all these wonderful people that know so much about money and private lending and are wanting to learn more about themselves. So, George, before we finish up, tell me, why are you coming to Money and You? The Money and You graduates are going to be excited to hear it, and then after you do it, I'm going to interview you again.
You know, I've heard so many amazing things about it. And what's funny is that I've had a whole bunch of people around me have gone to it, and when I ask them what is it, they're like, we can't tell you, we can't tell you. But I personally love growing, and I love the idea of becoming a better person, understanding more, you know, and just learning more. I so believe in learning and growing as a person. And so everybody has said so many amazing things, but honestly, well before any of those people went, I've heard from other people that are not directly related to me how amazing it was. And so I've always kept an eye on you, DC, and that's why I sent a number of people from our company to, because we encourage everyone, all our staff, to go out to different trainings and learn and grow as well. And so I encouraged people to go to Money and You. And when they came back, they were completely different people almost. In fact, I was shocked the effect it had on Haider as well. And I'm like, okay, if this affected Haider that much, I have to go now, whatever that is. So, and everybody's so secretive. It's like, ooh, okay.
It's no secret. It's just so hard to describe the way that Haider was talking about it. It was like, it is so personal. You know, that's the thing about it. Even me, after 36 years, all we can depend on is our referrals and people talking about, you know, what a difference it made, or the, you know, it got them out of debt. And this is the part that I really like, that we have so much alignment, is getting people out of debt. That is the biggest gift that I really want to support all of us. This is the alignment in our work. So, Haider, it's your turn. Before we go, anything you'd like to share about Money and You and the alignment, or just whatever you'd like to say?
Well, again, DC, really, it's always a pleasure to chat with you, and I'm also, you know, very excited to go with you and with George and with others to Asia. It looks like we have the opportunity to go, and Terrence from Malaysia already emailed me and said that he would love to host us there. So I'm excited to meet more of the Money and You family and to share our game with them, so we can get their feedback and begin impacting lives in Asia like we are in North America. And we thank you so much for opening your family and your community to us. And together, I really look forward to accomplishing some great things together.
Thank you. Thank you, Haider. George, anything else you'd like to say before we go?
Yes, there's something I want to say to you, DC. You have, what's the expression? We stand on shoulders of giants, or something like that. And you are truly a giant in this industry. The whole idea behind experiential training and certain things you've done and helped us. You've brought so much to the Family Bank, but also even our other trainings that we're building up for the Family Bank to help people. And so we are so honored to be, to be with you, working with you, and you advising us and helping us, and really opening a lot of doors for us. Because honestly, we're so honored and so touched by that. So it's truly been our pleasure to to work with you.
Thank you. Well, what I wanted to say was I feel like I have two beautiful knights that I'm bringing along to introduce to the whole family. I can hardly wait. When you have really good friends here and then really good friends there and all family members, you can hardly wait until they meet. I'm so excited about you meeting all kinds of wonderful people. There are many equals to you, many masters that you will learn from. They will learn from you. And so I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that's watching this. I like you, right there. You can go and read more about the Family Bank. And then also, of course, I'll see you at the next Money and News. We have Money and News coming up in Southern California. Of course, we also have, Money and News coming up in Malaysia, in Australia, in India, and then, of course, New Zealand. And we are growing and expanding, and always, the Chinese community, huge. This is going to be really big. I was talking to my Chinese partner in China, one of my Chinese partners in China, and I was telling him about it, and, he wants to meet with you all when he's here at the end of the month, and just continue to expand and grow this work. So you can always go to moneyandyou.com and learn all about us, for those of you that have never seen us before. And so thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I really feel that if you're watching this, there's a part of you that is really excited and interested in not only, supporting yourself and your family, but also helping the whole world. We still have quite a few people out there that are having a lot of challenges. We still have many children, mostly children that die of starvation and hunger and not having clean medicine. So we can do something by becoming wealthy ourselves and supporting others as we're growing together. You don't have to wait until you have all the money in the world. We can do it along the line and become a beautiful, loving human being that is not only creating a great life for yourself, but also for the world. So thank you, everyone. Aloha nui loa, as we say in Hawaii, and have a beautiful day, a beautiful week. Bye, Haydar. Bye, George.
Thanks, DC.
Bye-bye. Thanks, DC.
Uh-huh.